episode number 7. My name is Kevin Fitzpatrick, and I'm joined with Joanna Holliday, talking to her via satellite phone. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm holding up. This trip hasn't gone exactly the way that I wanted it to, but trying to stay upbeat about it and just not get too disappointed with the results that I've had. It's tough though.
So, catch us up since we last talked to the listeners. You're in Las Vegas. What hotel are you in right now?
So I'm in Caesars. I've been in 4 different hotels. I was in Encore at the Wynn, then I was at Caesars, then I was at Vdara at the Aria, and now I'm back at Caesars, and I'm here till I leave Wednesday night. So this is my last hotel.
Okay. And it seems like things are going well, and now not so well. What happened?
Well, it's not that things haven't, the other tournaments that I played, it was a lot of standard poker stuff that happens in tournaments. It's just that, I've been getting decent cards, but I've had the cards, but somebody else hasn't had a hand when I've had the cards, or I've had big cards, and then the cards that came out on the community board just did not help my situation. Like there were a bunch of hands where I had like pocket aces or ace queen, and there were straights or flushes or full houses out there. I had to fold my hand a couple times. So let me just go back to day 1, because day 1 was on Tuesday. So it's day 1 of the main event, and my goal on day 1 is to have the same amount of chips that I started with going into day 2. I just don't want to lose chips on day 1, because the structure of the tournament, you have enough chips that if you start day 2 with the same amount of chips you started day 1, you're still in really good shape. So I didn't want to come back to day 2 with like half of the amount of chips that I started with. So that was my goal, and I did. I basically, just picked different spots to steal blinds. I tried to stay out of the way of the guy that had the most chips at the table. I didn't want to get involved with him because he was a little bit reckless, and he had the capability of busting me. So I tried to just stay out of his way. It was pretty standard. It wasn't an easy table. It was, I would say, like an average table, maybe a little bit tough. A lot of pros there, but that doesn't bother me. But I did end the day with more than I started with. I started with 50,000, and I ended the day with 55,550 chips. So plenty of chips going into day 2.
So, do you ever see people at the table when you're sitting there, or do they come in and come out?
So for the most part, not a lot of people get busted out on day 1. About half the field gets eliminated, but for the most part, it's the same people at the table. There is some movement. There was some changeover from my first table. A couple of people did get knocked out. And you just have to size up the players, but I didn't want to get involved in really big pots. I just wanted to sort of accumulate chips and not lose chips. To me, it was more important the chips that I had than the chips I needed to accumulate on day 1, because it's a 9-day tournament. So you want to pace yourself, and coming into day 2 with like half those amount of chips is a lot more difficult than starting with 50,000 on day 2. So, I achieved the goal that I wanted. When I started day 2, I did have a tough day 2 table. And the thing about day 2 is when you get your seat assignment, you get a list of all the other players at the table, so you can look them up and research them. So, you have their names, and you Google them, and then they come up in poker poker statistic sites. HendonMob.com's the most frequent that people use to check out other poker players. And everybody but like one guy was a pro with like really substantial tournament wins, which doesn't really bother me. I mean, I don't mind playing professionals. At least you kind of know that, they know what they're doing, and it doesn't intimidate me or anything. But it was a tough table, and I lost a bunch of chips. Like the first level, I had pocket aces, which is the best starting hand you can have in poker. And the board ran out. Like there was a straight out there was a flush out there could be two pair out there. I mean, it was just everything came that that improved his hand, and he bet the river and I had a fold, so I lost a bunch of chips there. I had ace queen where there were like two aces on the flop, and the board ran out, and he bet the river, like a big bet on the river, and there could have been a flush, a full house, a straight, like there were all, so my cards were just running really bad. I mean, my big hands weren't holding up, but I'm pretty sure I made the right decisions folding there and saved my tournament life. But I was all in 6 times on day 2, so all of my chips were in the middle, and my tournament life was at risk 6 times. And a couple times I didn't get any callers. I went all in pre-flop or on the flop, and I didn't get any callers, and so it's hard to accumulate chips if you're not getting callers. But then on the other hand, you're not busting, because if you don't win the hand, then and somebody has more chips than you, then you're out. So
what time did you get knocked out?
So I got knocked out almost at 8 o'clock at night on day 2. There was one more level to make day 3, but.
Sorry, can you say that again? I need to edit that.
Oh, yeah. So I busted around 8 o'clock, and there was one more level. The levels are 2 hours, so there was one more level for the night, and then I would have made day 3, but I just couldn't accumulate the chips. And my last hand that I went all in with, and I was called. I had ace queen, and I went all in. I was called by pocket jacks. He had 2 jacks in his hand, and so all my chips are in the middle. The flop came with a jack on the flop, but also a king came on the turn, so I now have 4 outs in the deck. I have 4 tens left in the deck that I can hit, and then I'll have a straight. So there was some hope, but that's only like an 8% chance. And I didn't hit a 10, and I was knocked out. But it's a standard that ace queen versus jacks, or ace king versus tens. These are standard hands that go up against each other, and you need to hit your hand. So It's not, I wasn't knocked out in a bad way. It was kind of standard crap, but I was missing flops, or the boards were running out weird, and it was tough. It was just, luck wasn't going my way. And that brings me to the night before day 2, my friend Steve Zolotow, who's also one of the investors in Doc Holliday's, he's been a professional poker player for, 30 something years. And I always go to a July 4th party with him at Howard Lederer's house, who is a big time poker pro. He's now not playing poker anymore. I guess he's retired from poker, but he used to play at the Mayfair Club. So did Steve Zolotow. The Mayfair Club was the premier underground poker club in New York City, where major poker players, like very, very successful poker players, came out of this club. And it was an underground club that the movie Rounders was based on. And I actually have a connection to the Mayfair because back in 1994, my boss Dave was also a poker player playing at the Mayfair. That's how he met Steve Zolotow. And a couple times the waitress that worked at the Mayfair Club called in sick, and I did a favor and waitressed at the Mayfair Club. But at the time, I really had no interest in poker, so it wasn't really that big a deal to me. But looking back now that I'm a poker player, it's kind of huge that I have this connection to this premier underground club that so many very successful poker players came out of. And it's interesting when I tell people, because first of all, they look at me and they don't think I'm old enough to have waitressed at the Mayfair Club, but I have, and so it's come up in conversation. And one of the people that was at the July 4th party was this poker player, Dan Harrington, who's in his 70s now, but he wrote a whole series of books on tournament poker. Dan Harrington on Hold'em are the names of the Harrington on Hold'em are the books, and there's 3 volumes, and he's written a couple of other books, and pretty much every poker player that plays tournaments has purchased the book or read the book. So he's really an expert. He has multiple bracelets and a WPT title, and he really was a key person in the poker world, back in the day when it before the explosion. And he does have a World Series of bracelet, and he came in 4th, I think, the year that Chris Moneymaker won, where the year that they call the poker boom, when it really exploded. But he has, over $6 million in tournament wins, and I don't think he plays as much now as he used to. He's now invested in real estate. But when I asked him for advice on day 2, he said, just get lucky. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, he basically was like, you need to get lucky. And that was his advice. And then another night, I had dinner with him and some other friends of Steve Zolotow's that I had met. And his other advice was, any money that you win in poker, invest it. So those, he didn't really offer any technical advice. He just was pretty much being practical and saying, well, you got to get lucky in tournaments, and take the money that you win and invest it wisely, because you need some.
Buy real estate.
Yeah, buy real estate. That's how he's made his money. But that was super cool. Being able to hang out with somebody that is such an important person in poker history. I thought it was really cool, and he was a really cool guy, and he also has a Doc Holliday's Go Joe Go hat. So, that was a super cool experience, and that was that's one of the things. It's just one of the things that a lot of poker players would look forward to, is meeting somebody like that.
Well, that's great. So what's next?
So I did play another tournament yesterday where it was kind of similar. Like I wasn't hitting my hands or holding, but same thing. I had ace jack. My bust out hand was ace jack of diamonds, and the other guy had 8-8 in his hand, and I couldn't hit an ace, I couldn't hit a jack, I couldn't hit a flush. So that's how I busted. But what's next? So I've been doing some things in between playing poker. There's like a really nice spa here. I've had some nice dinners. I've gone shopping. I'm going to have dinner with Steve Zolotow and another friend tonight. And then I'm debating, I might go play like a poker cash game. The other nights, it was kind of too late by the time I busted whatever tournament I was in to get into a cash game, because it was the weekend and the lines are really long. Like on a Friday or Saturday night, the wait could be an hour or two to get a seat at a table. So I haven't done that yet, but the games are pretty good here in Las Vegas, so I might try that. Or we also were saying maybe we would go to a show tonight. So I looked at the shows that are available with the total rewards card that we have. It's like a higher level card. You get free tickets to a show once a month. So I looked at the shows, and there's something called Legends in Concert, and it's impersonators, doing music. And the impersonators right now are Elvis, Tina Turner, Michael Jackson, John Bon Jovi, and I think Bob Marley. And it's very well reviewed. So if I can get free tickets, I might do that tonight or tomorrow night, just to do it like a Vegas-y thing.
If it's Elvis, you've got to go.
Yeah.
Vegas is Elvis.
Yeah. So that's, I think the show's at 9:30. The dinner's at 7:30. So if there's tickets available for tonight or tomorrow, then I'm probably going to go do that. Yeah, it would be a really Vegas-y thing to do, and it's very well reviewed as well. And it's also over at the Flamingo, which is right across the street from where I'm staying, and so it's convenient. So I thought I'd do something different since poker has been a little bit frustrating, and because I had dinner planned, I didn't really want to play today, and I might play something tomorrow, or I might just play cash for the rest of the trip, or I'll definitely do some other things like shopping, buying souvenirs, going to the spa. I might go to the pool. I've only been to the pool once since I've been here. It's kind of really hot. It's about 115 degrees. There's another thing that happened yesterday that was kind of cool. There was a guy that did an Evel Knievel jump. He did a series of Evel Knievel jumps, and it was live on the History Channel. And it was at Caesar's Palace, and he did this stunt that almost killed Evel Knievel in 1975.
Did you go to it?
He did it. He did it. I was actually playing poker when it happened. I was in a tournament, but they had it on the TV, and my hotel was setting up for the jump, and there were, I guess, a series of jumps, and he jumped over, trucks or cars, it's still. The stands are still set up outside, so it was on the History Channel last night. I'm sure you can see it on YouTube or DVR or on demand or whatever. But that was kind of interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. I didn't know that was going to be happening.
Well, we do have. If you get some viewers, say that again. Well, that's really cool. We do have an email we got for you, Joe, from Paul in Long Island City. One of your fans says, I want to ask how Joe applies poker learning to life. I think my time at the poker table taught me to keep emotions in check, to understand that bad luck will happen. You have to remain confident in your decision making and not fall into the trap of results-based thinking.
Yes.
So, what's the benefit of knowing of that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really I've focused on the mental aspects of playing poker, and I agree with everything he said, and that really applies to what I just said. Is that you're not supposed to be results oriented. That you're supposed to be long-term focused, and an individual tournament or an individual session. In terms of variance is very insignificant, while it's very difficult not to focus on results. You really have to. So if you're talking to somebody that doesn't play poker, they might be confused and say, what do you mean? How can you not be results oriented? Like, you want to win, you want to make money, you want to whatever, you're into the competition, but it's a numbers game, and you have to hang in there. And there are people that go through an entire year of running bad and not hitting cards and getting unlucky, and those times come, and I just basically I have to think, my time out here isn't going the way that I want, but there will be my time when I'm hitting cards and I'm running good and things are going my way. It's just the way of the poker world. And in terms of my life, I manage a staff of about a dozen people, and I'd say that I'm very fact-oriented when it comes to dealing with daily business or managing staff, and I do try not to get very emotional with things and things in general. I'm very to the point and a straight shooter, I would say. And very rarely will you see me get emotional either behind the bar or dealing with a management situation or pretty much anything in life. I mean, you do get affected by things, but your emotions definitely in life maybe are more in check because of what's happened in your poker life at the table. It definitely it is correlated, you know.
Yeah, that's good. And if you're listening and you have more questions, just email us. You can just look at the link on our site. It's patrickauthor.com, Joanna Holliday.com. You can shoot us a message and we'll read it on the air. For me, not too much, really to report. I'm working on a few different projects, getting stuff set up for the next few podcasts we're going to have. We're going to have a bunch of guests coming on, getting those lined up. Jill will be back in New York. We'll get back going to the Lambs Club. Talk more about going on to the Lambs and doing more stuff around the city for the rest of the summer. Going out to Governor's Island. I go out to Liberty a few times a week, so just working on that stuff too.
Yeah, and I want to try to go to Governor's Island at some point this summer. There is a bartender that works at the bar that works at one of the restaurants out there as well.
Oh yeah, which bar? Is Island Oyster?
Yes, Island Oyster.
Oh, that's a really fantastic place. It just opened last summer, and what's amazing about it is the best view in the city. It's right on the harbor. You're looking right at Lower Manhattan.
Wow.
The Statue of Liberty, Jersey City, the Brooklyn Bridge. It's all laid out right in front of you. They have really good cocktails. They have a very good cocktail menu. Really good craft cocktails. I know for the oysters.
Yeah, I love oysters.
They don't come from New York Harbor yet, maybe in about 20 years, but they have a really good, it's a really, really cool space to be at. So which bartender works over there?
Lexi, she's
Okay.
probably our late, I guess, yeah, she's our latest hire, but she kind of reminds me of a young Anna Nicole Smith. She's very Amazon, she's like very tall and voluptuous and really cool. Also, she was also a sociology major in college, which makes me have a special affinity for her because I was as well.
Well, you asked me Anna Nicole Smith, so...
Yeah, that's what she reminds me of. She's like a voluptuous blonde, and she's kind of goofy, and she's cool. People like her.
So, drinking on Governor's Island doesn't get much better than that, so that'll be good. Yeah, I've got, I'll post on our site. We're going to have some different events going on out there. We should have we'll do a show out there too.
Okay, that sounds good.
We'll do a show out there. That's about it for this week, I think, everybody. Joe, do you have anything else to go over with the crowd?
No, I wish I had better news to report, but it is what it is.
Yeah, well, we'll dial into that when we get back to New York. We'll do more about, poker this summer and, breakdown. Maybe you'll think of some more, pearls of wisdom on the flight back to the city.
Alrighty.
All right, thanks, Joe. It's great talking to you. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.
See you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.